You didn't stumble on this message by accident. The truth is, something in your field has been calling for this exact moment, and that's why you're here. Right now, your consciousness is brushing against the edges of something you can't quite name, a pattern so subtle it hides in plain sight. Have you noticed it? That eerie sensation of déjà vu? The strange elasticity of time moments that drag endlessly, yet weeks vanish in a blur. The conversations that feel like reruns, as if someone pressed play on the same script again and again. It's not just coincidence. It's not just memory tricks. It's what quantum researchers call the invisible loop, a hidden cycle of observation and collapse that locks you into repeating timelines. Most people never see it. They confuse the loop with fate. They think, this is just who I am. This is just how life works. But if you're here, it means your perception is sharpening. You're beginning to sense what others overlook, that the loop isn't permanent, and that awareness itself can begin to dissolve it. This isn't about adding more positive thinking. This isn't about improving the old self. The invisible loop is like an unseen script, and the moment you notice it, you gain the power to rewrite it. What you're about to receive is not just information. It's a self-audit worksheet for your consciousness. Each step will help you recognize where the loop hides in your life, how it feeds on your attention, and how to finally step beyond it. You didn't find this key. The key found you. At the core of the invisible loop lies something quantum physicists describe as the observer effect. In its simplest form, it means that observation doesn't just record reality, it shapes it. Your awareness decides which probability wave collapses into experience, but here's the hidden catch. Most people don't observe consciously. Their attention is conditioned by past wounds, habits, and beliefs. And when the same observations are repeated day after day, the same wave collapses again and again. That's the observer loop, a cycle where your awareness unconsciously manufactures identical patterns of reality. Think of it this way. Imagine standing in front of a jukebox with infinite songs. Every choice is available. But because you've unconsciously memorized one familiar button, you press it every single time. The same track plays until it feels like the only track that exists. That's not fate. That's looping attention. The strangest part is how ordinary it feels. The loop doesn't announce itself loudly, it disguises itself as normal life. Repeating conversations, recurring financial struggles, relationship conflicts that feel recycled. These are not accidents. They are the result of your consciousness collapsing the same narrow band of probability while ignoring the infinite possibilities vibrating around you. This is why so many people feel trapped, like actors stuck in a rerun. They think life is doing this to them. But the quantum truth is more radical. It's happening through them. The loop isn't external. It's powered by observation itself. And the moment you recognize this, something profound happens. Awareness weakens the repetition. The loop begins to flicker, and you realize you've been the one pressing play all along. Behind every observer loop lies what I call the invisible script. Think of it as the hidden code that runs your reality, lines of programming written not by fate, but by repeated choices, memories, and unconscious beliefs. The invisible script is powerful precisely because it's unseen. You don't wake up each morning and read it like a book. Instead, it writes itself into your thoughts, your emotions, your behaviors. It whispers, "This is who you are. This is how life works. This is what you can expect." And because you don't see it, you play your role without question. Have you ever noticed how certain situations feel eerily familiar? A relationship that unfolds like the last one? A career path that circles back to the same frustrations? Even emotional reactions that ignite automatically before you've had time to think? That's the script in action. Different actors, different settings, same storyline. The trap is that the script convinces you it's reality. You say, "That's just how things are," when in truth, it's just how things have been observed. The loop doesn't care whether the experience is joyful or painful. It only cares that it's familiar. But here's the liberating secret. The script is not carved in stone. It is editable. The moment you recognize it as a script, not destiny, you begin to reclaim authorship. You realize you don't have to keep reciting the same lines. You can pause, rip out a page, and begin to write something new. The invisible script loses power the moment it becomes visible. And that's why noticing it is the first act of freedom. Awareness begins with asking the right questions. You don't have to solve the loop all at once. The first step is simply noticing where it lives in your life. That's why this section is a self-audit. Prompt a mirror held up to your everyday experiences. Grab a journal or even a blank sheet of paper. Write at the top patterns that feel copy-pasted in my life. Then, let your thoughts flow. Don't edit. Don't judge. Just observe. Here are some guiding questions. Relationships. Do I keep attracting the same type of partner or friend, even if their faces and names change? What emotional dynamic repeats itself? Work and money. Do I encounter the same frustrations in different jobs or financial cycles? Is there a story about struggle or not enough that replays inner world? Do certain emotions, anger, disappointment, abandonment rise automatically, no matter the situation? What echoes return again and again? As you write, notice the tone of your answers. Does it feel like déjà vu, like you've written or said these things before? That recognition itself is proof. You're glimpsing the script. Don't try to fix or analyze yet. This is not about problem solving. It's about visibility. The act of noticing is already breaking the spell. Remember, the invisible loop thrives in the dark. The moment you shine awareness on it, even by scribbling notes in a journal, you weaken its hold. Every pattern named is a pattern that begins to dissolve. So, your first audit step is simple. Name the copy-paste patterns. The page you just filled is not a list of problems. It's a map showing you where the loop hides, and maps are always the beginning of freedom. One of the clearest indicators that you're caught inside the invisible loop is the way you experience time. When consciousness keeps collapsing the same probability waves, time doesn't behave normally. Instead of flowing forward, it bends, stretches, and repeats. You've probably felt this. Hours that crawl endlessly during mundane routines, while entire weeks vanish without meaningful progress. This isn't bad scheduling, it's temporal distortion. Your awareness is circling a closed track, so time begins to feel recycled, and then there's déjà vu. Not the fleeting "this feels familiar" moment, but the deep certainty that you have lived this exact scene before. Same words, same emotions, same outcome. Quantum researchers call these temporal echoes, the same loop of probability playing again, almost like a film reel stuck on repeat. Some even notice glitches: a skipped second, a repeated phrase, the sensation that reality flickered like a broken video frame. These aren't errors in your mind, they are signals that your observer loop is reloading the same pattern. The loop tricks you by making repetition feel like inevitability. But déjà vu and time distortion are not random. They are invitations. They are the universe whispering, "Look closely." You're not moving forward, you're replaying. The key is awareness. The moment you name these distortions as signs of looping rather than dismissing them as quirks, the spell begins to break. Because if you can notice time bending, you've already stepped outside the pattern enough to see it. And seeing is the first act of liberation. Another way the invisible loop reveals itself is through emotional echoes, the same feelings replaying in different circumstances. Have you noticed it, that sudden wave of anger, disappointment, or fear that rises before anything has even happened? It's not caused by the situation. It's preloaded by the script. The loop doesn't wait for external triggers. It injects familiar emotions into new moments, ensuring you experience reality through the same lens again and again. This is why, even when you change jobs, move cities, or meet new people, the inner story feels recycled. The cast changes, but the feelings remain. Relationships are one of the clearest mirrors of this recycling. You may find yourself attracting partners who, though different on the surface, end up pressing the same wounds, or bosses and colleagues who repeat the same power dynamics you swore you'd left behind. This isn't bad luck. It's the loop reassigning roles in the same play. Here's the tricky part. Emotional echoes feel personal. You think, this is just who I am. I'm always anxious. I'm always disappointed. But that identity is a reflection of the loop, not your essence. Recognizing this pattern is revolutionary. When you notice the same emotions returning across unrelated experiences, you realize, wait, this isn't reality, it's the script. That shift alone creates distance between you and the loop. And in that distance, freedom begins to grow, so pay attention to what keeps repeating emotionally. Those echoes are not curses. They are signals pointing you to the exact frequencies where the invisible loop hides. Why does the invisible loop exist in the first place? To understand this, we need to look at both neuroscience and quantum mechanics. On the level of the brain, scientists talk about neural pathways. Each thought or emotion you repeat strengthens a connection in your nervous system. Over time, these connections become neural superhighways, fast, automatic routes your brain prefers because they require less energy. That's why you react the same way in familiar situations. Even if you consciously wish to change, the loop feels inevitable because your biology keeps defaulting to the same track. Now, let's connect this to quantum mechanics. At the subatomic level, reality exists as waves of probability. When observed, these waves collapse into a single experience. The observer effect means you don't just see reality, you select it. But here's the hidden catch. When your attention is conditioned by neural superhighways, you unconsciously collapse the same wave patterns over and over. This is why your life feels like déjà vu. Your brain provides the wiring, your consciousness provides the observation. Together, they create a loop of recycled probabilities. You think you're experiencing something new, but energetically you're pressing the same button. Think of it like this. Your brain builds the grooves, and your awareness keeps running water through the same channel. The stream carves deeper until it feels like the only river that exists. But beyond that channel lies an infinite field of potential rivers, waiting for you to redirect your attention. The loop exists not to punish you, but because your system naturally seeks efficiency. The tragedy is mistaking efficiency for destiny. The gift is realizing that awareness can interrupt the cycle, allowing you to collapse new probabilities and step beyond the familiar track. The invisible loop isn't only a product of neural wiring or probability collapse. It also functions as a quantum mirror, a reflection designed to show you what remains unresolved within yourself. Think about it every time you face the same disappointment, the same heartbreak, the same financial struggle. It's not random punishment. It's reality reflecting your inner state back to you, so you cannot ignore it. The loop repeats until the lesson becomes visible. This mirror can feel cruel. You may think, why do I keep attracting the same situation? But the deeper truth is that the loop is not against you, it's for you. It is consciousness insisting, look here, heal this, integrate this. The quantum mirror works like this. Unresolved wounds vibrate at a specific frequency. That frequency collapses into reality as external events. If abandonment is the wound, you'll meet partners who leave. If unworthiness is the wound, you'll encounter jobs or people who undervalue you. The loop keeps placing mirrors in front of you until you see the pattern not as fate, but as feedback. Imagine walking through a hall of mirrors. Each reflection distorts in a slightly different way, but all are pointing back to the same thing you. That's how the loop operates. Different faces, different settings, same core reflection. This is why awareness is so radical. The moment you see the loop as a mirror, not a prison, you stop fighting the reflection. You start asking, what is this showing me about myself? That shift transforms the loop from enemy into teacher. The quantum mirror doesn't exist to trap you. It exists to reveal you, to bring the hidden into sight, so you can integrate what's been ignored. Once you embrace that, the loop's power begins to dissolve. The quantum mirror only serves its purpose if you engage with it. This is where the self-audit becomes essential. Instead of running from repeated experiences, you pause and ask, what are these loops trying to show me? Take your journal and create a page titled Reflections from My Loop. Then sit quietly and explore these prompts. Recurring situations. What specific challenges seem to reappear in my life? Write down the top 3 that feel copy-pasted. Emotional triggers. Which emotions flare up the fastest? Which ones seem older than the moment itself, like echoes from the past? Unresolved beliefs. What do these repeating experiences say about me? For example, I'm not enough. People always leave. Or, success never lasts. As you write, notice the thread connecting these reflections. They may all point back to a single wound or belief that has been left unhealed. This is the mirror at work. Don't approach this as a problem to solve. Approach it as feedback to acknowledge. The very act of naming the reflections shifts the energy. It transforms the loop from unconscious programming into conscious awareness. Here's a key practice after listing your patterns. Place your hand over your heart and say aloud, this is not punishment. This is reflection. I am willing to see. That declaration repositions you as the observer, not the prisoner. Remember, every loop you write down is not an enemy, but an invitation. By mapping the reflections, you begin to integrate the parts of yourself that have been waiting to be seen. And once integration begins, the loop no longer needs to repeat. Up until now, we've explored the invisible loop through the lens of the observer effect. Your attention collapses, probability waves into repeated experiences. And yes, this is real. But here's the shocking truth. Few people talk about the observer effect is not the ultimate key. Why? Because simply observing your reality, even if you recognize the loop, doesn't guarantee change. Many people become hyper-aware of their patterns, endlessly analyzing them. Yet the same script continues to play. Awareness alone can expose the loop, but it doesn't dissolve it. The hidden trap is mistaking recognition for transformation. You can spend years saying, I see my patterns, I know my wounds, while still collapsing the same wave functions into the same outcomes. Observation without shift is like standing at the edge of a door but never walking through. Here's the deeper quantum truth. The real key is not observation, it's selection. You don't just collapse reality by noticing it. You collapse reality by choosing a new state of being and embodying it. Awareness points to the door, but embodiment is what opens it. Think of it this way, you can stare at a jukebox forever, recognizing that the same song is playing, but unless you reach out and select a new track, the old one keeps looping. Observation identifies the repetition. Selection creates the break. This is why so many spiritual seekers feel stuck. They've mastered awareness, but not embodiment. They know the theory, but the loop persists because nothing new is being chosen. The shocking truth is this: your loop won't dissolve by seeing it. It dissolves when you stop energizing the old self and begin embodying the frequency of the new one. That's the hidden shift that changes everything. If the observer effect isn't enough, then what actually creates the shift? The answer is what I call the invisible script rewrite. Remember, the loop is powered by a hidden script lines of unconscious code that dictate how you think, feel, and act. Observation allows you to finally see the script, but transformation requires something more, rewriting it through embodiment. Here's the key: you don't erase the old script by fighting it. You rewrite it by embodying a new frequency so fully that the old one no longer runs. This isn't about thinking different thoughts once in a while. It's about practicing a new state of being until it becomes your default. Think of it like changing the operating system on a computer. You can't just delete old files. You have to install a new OS that makes the old code irrelevant. In the same way, when you embody peace instead of fear, worthiness instead of lack, coherence instead of chaos, the old script loses power. The invisible script rewrite is not done through force, it's done through alignment. You align with the version of you who already lives beyond the loop. You let that identity guide your thoughts, choices, and actions. Slowly but surely, the old script collapses, because it no longer matches your embodied frequency. This is why embodiment matters more than awareness. Awareness shines the light. Embodiment flips the switch. And once you install a new script through practice and coherence, the loop can no longer recycle the old one. The secret is this: you don't fix the old self. You dissolve it by refusing to feed it. You write a new script by living it now. The invisible script rewrite begins with awareness, but becomes real through practice. To move from theory to transformation, you need to ask yourself the hardest question of all. Where am I still trying to fix the old me instead of embodying the new one? This is the essence of self-audit prompt #4. Take your journal and write across the page, fixing versus embodying. Then divide the page into 2 columns. On the left, write down the areas of your life where you're constantly trying to repair, improve, or compensate. Examples: I try to prove I'm worthy by overworking. I try to heal rejection by chasing approval. I try to fix fear by controlling everything. On the right, write down what embodiment of the new self would look like. Examples: instead of overworking, I embody worthiness by resting without guilt. Instead of chasing approval, I embody self-love by validating myself first. Instead of controlling, I embody trust by allowing life to flow. The goal isn't to judge yourself. It's to notice the difference between fixing and embodying. Fixing keeps you in the loop, because it focuses on patching the old identity. Embodying breaks the loop, because it installs a new identity altogether. Once you finish the list, place your hand on your heart and declare, I no longer fix the old self. I embody the new self. Now, speak it out loud. Let your body feel the resonance. Remember, the loop survives as long as you keep repairing the mask of the old you. But the moment you stop fixing and start embodying, the mask dissolves and the loop with it. Every act of transformation begins with one simple, radical step: awareness. Before you can collapse a new probability, you must first see the old script clearly for what it is. The invisible loop thrives on invisibility. It hides in repetition, disguising itself as normal life. You wake up, follow routines, feel the same emotions, and assume this is just who you are. But the truth is, much of this rhythm is not your authentic self. It's the script playing itself through you. Awareness is like turning on a light in a dark room. The furniture doesn't vanish, but you can finally see where everything is. You stop tripping over the same obstacles, because they are no longer hidden. The loop loses power the moment it's seen. The mistake many people make is underestimating awareness. They rush to fix their patterns without truly observing them. But if you try to fix what you haven't fully seen, you end up reinforcing the loop. You repaint the prison walls instead of stepping out of the cell. True awareness is gentle, not forceful. It doesn't condemn, it witnesses. When you catch yourself repeating an old thought or emotion, you don't attack it, you name it. You say, "This is the script, not me." That naming alone creates distance. And in that distance, new choices become possible. Remember, the loop isn't destroyed through struggle. It dissolves in the light of awareness. And the moment you see the script clearly, you've already begun to break free. Awareness opens the door, but practice is what helps you walk through it. The invisible loop is stubborn, and it thrives on automatic repetition. To interrupt it, you need small, intentional rituals that shift your energy in real time. These aren't complex. They're simple acts of embodiment that declare this loop ends now. Here are 3 mini practices you can use immediately. The written break. On a piece of paper, write the sentence, "This loop ends now." Hold the paper for a moment. Feel the weight of those words, then rip it into pieces. As you tear it, imagine the old script dissolving with every fragment. This symbolic act trains your subconscious to release repetition. The breath collapse place, your hand over your heart. Inhale deeply for a count of 3. Hold for 3. Exhale for 3. With each cycle, imagine collapsing the frequency of the old self, like folding a paper until it disappears. Do this 3 times whenever you notice yourself slipping into old patterns. The declaration ritual: stand in front of a mirror. Look directly into your own eyes and say aloud, I am coherent with my highest timeline. I embody it now. Speak slowly, with conviction. The mirror amplifies the declaration, reinforcing a new script within your nervous system. The power of these rituals is not in their complexity, but in their consistency. Every time you perform one, you interrupt the automation of the loop and plant a new seed of embodiment. Over time, the subconscious begins to favor the new pattern over the old. Remember, breaking the loop isn't about force. It's about steady, conscious interruptions that prove to your body and mind that you are choosing differently. Each ritual is a small act of sovereignty. Together, they create momentum for a quantum shift. The rituals you've just learned are simple, but their impact depends on one thing: consistency. And consistency begins with self-awareness. This is where your next self-audit comes in. Title a fresh page in your journal: Practices that anchor my shift. Now reflect on these prompts. Which ritual feels most real to me right now? Notice whether writing, breathing, or declaring sparks the strongest resonance in your body. Don't choose logically, choose energetically. When do I feel the loop most strongly? Is it in the morning when you wake up, during stressful conversations? Late at night when doubts echo? Identifying your triggers will tell you when to apply the ritual. What resistance shows up? Do you feel silly talking to the mirror? Do you resist pausing to breathe? Your resistance is not failure. It's a signal that the ritual is touching something powerful. Write your answers honestly, even if they feel uncomfortable. The purpose is not to force discipline, but to design practices that feel alive. Here's a bonus step: commit to trying your chosen ritual every day for 7 days. At the end of the week, return to your journal and record what shifted. Did you feel lighter? Did old reactions dissolve faster? Did synchronicities appear? This is how embodiment grows, through lived practice, not theory. Each ritual you integrate weakens the old script and strengthens the new one. End this audit with a simple declaration, written at the bottom of the page: I choose to interrupt the loop daily. My rituals are proof of my freedom. When you sign your name beneath it, you're not just writing words, you're authorizing your own liberation. Awareness and rituals open the doorway, but the real breakthrough comes when you embody the reality you choose. This is what it means to step onto your highest timeline, not just imagining a better version of yourself, but living as if you are already that self. Right now, embodiment is more than belief. Belief says, I hope this is true. Embodiment declares, this is who I am. It's not about waiting for evidence. It's about becoming the evidence. Think of your highest timeline as a frequency already vibrating within the quantum field. The moment you align your thoughts, emotions, and actions with that frequency, you collapse it into form. You stop rehearsing the old script and begin rehearsing the new one until it becomes your default state. Here's a practice each morning. Before the day begins, place your hand on your chest and ask, how would my highest self move through today? Listen for the answer, not in words, but in feelings. Maybe it feels calm. Maybe it feels powerful. Maybe it feels light. Then, commit to embodying that frequency for the next 24 hours. Another practice: declarations. Stand firmly and say aloud, I am coherent with my highest timeline. I live it now. Say it slowly. Let your body register the vibration. Words are not magic by themselves. It's the embodiment behind the words that creates coherence. When you embody your highest timeline, the loop can't recycle the old one. It collapses because it no longer matches your resonance. This is the quantum secret. You don't wait for the future to arrive. You live the frequency of the future, now. And when you do, the highest timeline doesn't just appear. It unfolds through you. Imagine reality as a vast field of radio frequencies. Every timeline, every possibility, every version of you is broadcasting right now. The question is, which station are you tuned to? The invisible loop keeps you stuck on one frequency like a radio dial that never moves. You hear the same song on repeat, not because it's the only song that exists, but because it's the only one your tuner allows. This is the essence of coherence: your thoughts, emotions, and actions aligning to one consistent signal. When you're caught in the loop, your coherence is anchored to the old self-fear, lack, struggle. No matter how many times you say affirmations, if your signal doesn't shift, you'll still collapse the same probability. It's like declaring you want jazz music while staying tuned to a heavy rock station. The broadcast won't change until the dial does. Retuning requires intention. Every time you notice yourself replaying the old script, pause and gently turn the dial. Ask yourself, what frequency am I broadcasting right now? Fear or trust, scarcity or abundance, self-doubt or worthiness. Then, consciously retune by choosing one coherent state that matches your highest timeline. Here's a simple practice. Place your hand on your chest and whisper, "I retune to coherence now." Feel your body soften, your breath slow. Imagine the dial clicking into a clearer signal. The more often you do this, the easier it becomes to hold the frequency of your chosen timeline. Remember, the field isn't withholding anything from you. All the stations are already playing. The only shift required is coherence, retuning your awareness until it matches the reality you desire. And once the signal is steady, the old loop can't survive. Its static dissolves into clarity, and your life begins to play a new song. Embodiment becomes real when you design it consciously. This is where your sixth self-audit comes in: a blueprint for coherence. Open your journal and title the page, "My New Script of Coherence." Then, divide the page into two sections: the old frequency. Write down the states you know belong to the loop: fear, scarcity, self-doubt, control, or whatever resonates with you. These are the signals you've been broadcasting unconsciously, the chosen frequency. For each old state, write the coherent alternative that matches your highest timeline. Examples: fear, trust, scarcity, abundance, self-doubt, worthiness, control, flow. Next, ask yourself, which one of these new frequencies will I embody today? Circle just one. Don't overwhelm yourself with many. Choose one and commit to holding it for the next 24 hours. To anchor it, create a simple micro-practice. For example, every time I notice fear, I'll pause, breathe, and whisper, "I choose trust." Every time I feel scarcity, I'll affirm I live in abundance now. This self-audit is not about writing endlessly. It's about designing a living script you can embody daily. End your page with this declaration: I am coherent with my chosen frequency. I live it now. Sign your name beneath it. This is your agreement with the quantum field. Remember, coherence isn't built in a day. It's built in small, repeated choices. And each choice weakens the loop while strengthening your highest timeline. Every shift you make inside yourself does not end with you. Consciousness is not isolated. It is interconnected, woven into what Rupert Sheldrake calls the morphic field. When you break your loop, you send ripples into the collective field that make it easier for others to break theirs. Think of it like a tuning fork. When one fork vibrates at a higher frequency, nearby forks begin to resonate with it. In the same way, when you embody your highest timeline, you unconsciously broadcast that frequency. People around you begin to feel lighter, braver, more open without even knowing why. This is why personal transformation matters on a planetary level. The invisible loop doesn't just trap individuals, it traps humanity. Entire societies recycle wars, economic struggles, and fear-driven systems because collective scripts keep collapsing the same probabilities. But the moment enough individuals rewrite their scripts, the collective script begins to shift. Your liberation is not selfish. It is service. Every time you collapse a new probability for yourself, you create a template in the field that others can access. Someone across the world may suddenly feel inspired to choose differently because your coherence has made that frequency available. This is the hidden power of your awakening. It is not just about escaping your personal loop, it is about breaking humanity's loop. And in that way, your journey becomes a gift to the collective. The collective awakening is not abstract. It has a mechanism. Biologist Rupert Sheldrake described it as morphic resonance. Once a pattern is established in the field, it becomes easier for others to adopt. In quantum terms, the field remembers. Imagine humanity as a vast web of consciousness, each person like a node on the network. When one node upgrades, the signal strengthens across the grid. At first, it feels small, one person breaking their loop. But when enough individuals embody new frequencies, a tipping point occurs. The whole grid recalibrates. This is why revolutions in human history often seem to spread overnight. An idea, a movement, or a new way of seeing the world suddenly becomes obvious to millions, as if the collective had been waiting for it. In truth, it's the quantum field updating itself through resonance, right now. The old collective loop is one of fear, division, and control. But a new resonance is emerging: coherence, unity, and empowerment. Every time you shift from fear to trust, from scarcity to abundance, you strengthen that resonance in the field. You're not just changing your life, you're changing what's available to all of us. Here's the miracle. You don't need to change billions of people yourself. You only need to hold your frequency long enough for the field to remember it. Then, resonance does the rest. The collective awakening is already underway. Each personal shift is a contribution to that larger movement. And together, these ripples become a wave strong enough to carry humanity into a new timeline. The final self-audit is not just about you, it's about your role in the collective awakening. Personal freedom is powerful, but collective freedom requires commitment. This prompt helps you clarify how you want to contribute to the larger shift. Open your journal and title the page "My Commitment to the Collective." Then explore these questions. Ripple effect. How does my personal shift inspire or impact those around me? Family, friends, colleagues, contribution. What frequency do I want to broadcast into the field? Trust, compassion, courage, creativity, action. What one simple practice can I share with others to help them see or break their loops? Write without pressure. This isn't about saving the world overnight. It's about identifying your authentic way of participating in the resonance. Here's a micro practice. Place your hands together in front of your heart. Close your eyes and whisper, "My liberation is the liberation of all." Let the words sink in. Imagine the energy of your declaration flowing outward into the field, touching lives you'll never meet. At the bottom of your page, finish with this declaration: I commit to embodying my highest frequency, not only for myself, but as a contribution to the awakening of humanity. Sign it. Date it. This is your personal covenant with the collective field. Remember, you don't need to carry the entire awakening. You only need to hold your piece of the resonance. Together, all of our pieces form the new script for humanity. You did not arrive here by accident. Every word you've read has been a mirror, showing you the invisible loop that once held you and the path beyond it. You've seen how awareness exposes the script, how rituals interrupt it, how embodiment rewrites it, and how your personal liberation ripples into the awakening of all. The loop only survives in silence and invisibility. Now, you have named it, you have tools to break it, and most importantly, you know that your shift is not just personal, it's part of a greater quantum movement unfolding across humanity. This is your moment of declaration. Place your hand on your heart and speak. The loop ends with me. I embody my highest timeline now. My liberation is my gift to the collective. Write these words in your journal. Say them aloud. Share them in the comments as your declaration to the field. Remember, the shift is not waiting for you in the future. It begins now. In this breath, in this choice, your freedom is already here. And once you claim it, the loop can never hold you again.